Wars start over nothing in prison. And I remember this one specific situation in time while serving 16 years, 11 months in the Commonwealth of Virginia, where a war was getting ready to pop off between two cars. One I'll label the Bees, and the other was an actual city, the Newport News Crew. Both populations had numbers. They were deep. And what I want to tell you about most wars and any violent chain of events that occur in the penitentiary is they typically start over nothing. At least that's what it looks like on the surface level if you're not truly understanding of the environment. See, what's wrapped around what can be looked at as a frivolous moment or exchange between two individuals that they should be able to move past, it's much deeper than that. It's about respect. And this situation started over a basketball game. And two youngins, well, one fouled another youngin that was on the court, balling, getting ready to score, and words were exchanged. And it was a rough foul, I admit, but the basketball game was intense. And anybody that knows sports in the system, it's intense. Guys really try to win. Some people in prison, that's all they have to look forward to. That is their bid. Sports, working out, getting on that basketball court. There are guys in the system that are known as like people that could have played in the NBA. It's that intense, man. And a lot of times gambling is involved. And you got to know that in this game right here, there was some gambling involved. There was some trash talk. And like I said, one youngin was from one car, the other youngin was from a different car. And right when they called lockdown after that situation, they both started moving to their respective buildings, but both of their crews that witnessed the event and the exchange were not good. And they began exchanging words until the point that threats were thrown out there. And in prison, once threats are thrown out there, it's basically over with. We got to go ahead and deal with it. It's not a game. It's got to go down, because if I don't address it, anybody else that's witnessed it, they know that we're weak. They know that hands down if we just let it slide, right? And we have to address it one or two ways. It's either physical, right? We go ahead and get at it, or we can have a conversation. The political aspect, the political pathway, if you will, in prison, because prison is really political. Nonetheless, what happened was they called lockdown. Everybody goes into their buildings. And the way the buildings are set up at Greensville, it's windows on the backside you can see onto the yards. And they let different pods or buildings out first, depending upon which one clears count first, etc., which one COs are moving faster, blah, blah, blah. And after the words were exchanged, after count was cleared, when they called pod rec, one building came out, and it was the building that had the majority of the Newport News Crew. And what I want to tell you is the next thing that I saw was crazy, because they all immediately went to different parts of the yard, which to the untrained eye, you would not see as being marked. And they started to dig up pieces of steel. They already had their stuff out there prepared, ready for moments like this. And as a matter of fact, the other car, the Bees, knew that when they hit the yard, they better be prepared, because word started traveling quick. Guys started yelling out the windows. This was before they put in the AC units, and you couldn't open the windows anymore. Back then, you could still open up the windows, yell out, etc. And guys started yelling, yo, they getting pieces of steel off the yard. Y'all boys better be ready. The Bees still went out there. They still went out onto the yard. They weren't soft and none of that, right? But they were also outnumbered. And I don't know what was going to occur, but what I'm going to tell you is this. One car, the Bees were on one side of the yard. Newport News was on the other side of the yard. And from how I could see it, it looked like it was like 100 to 40. And maybe those weren't the accurate numbers, but it was the majority of the yard that were out, because a lot of people were going to avoid the yard, but there's plenty of people in prison don't care. They're going to go out there, get the entertainment, still get their workout in, whatever, because they know we're going to end up going on lockdown, so they're not going to get no fresh air for a minute. And those guys would be off to the side of the yard, on the walls, etc., out the way, because they already know these guys, they about to get busy. And immediately, both of the cars start walking towards one another. And you just know, you could feel it. When you've been to prison, you can feel it in the air. You know it's going to go down, right? And what I tell you is the Bees were not a city. They were a car that was comprised of many people from all over the place, right? And some of these guys were from Newport News, the city that they were getting ready to beef with or go to war with. And as they got closer, some of the numbers from both sides fell back, which is there's a story in that, because that tells you not everybody really wants to go to war, and that's okay. Not everybody's willing to potentially lose their life over two guys exchanging words on a basketball court. Some people want to make it home to their kids. They're not concerned with that type of respect, as long as you don't put your hands on them, etc. Or especially if it's not direct. But as the two cars got closer, there was still a decent amount of numbers, and the Bees were still outnumbered by Newport News. And at the front of the car for the Bees was an individual who had just got transferred onto the compound like two, 3 days before. And he happened to be from Newport News, and he was respected. And at the last second, before it could have got busy, he hollered at the guys, they hollered at him, they had respect, you know, the big homie, whatever they were from Newport News, the guys that had influence, and they figured it out. And everybody chilled. Now, I don't know what happened after that inside the buildings in the pods, but I know at that point in time, a war was averted. But man, they always start over nothing. And if I'm not mistaken, I think we still went on lockdown like a week later for a total separate incident, 2 separate cars that were beefing in there. But that's prison, man. And that is one of those moments I was just sitting here thinking about this morning, drinking my coffee, remembering, yeah, man, stay free. Don't go to prison. Peace.